Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to the Racetech V8 ESC Endurance Cup, brought to you by Esia Racing TV. Myself, Clyde Whiting, and joined in the booth tonight by Mr. Pete Bingham. Good evening.
Evening, everybody. Hope you enjoy tonight.
And usual wheels of steel, doing the cameras in the background, trying not to talk, is Mr. Sam Boozin. Evening.
Hello, guys.
So, Pete, here we are. We are at Sebring. We have a night race. We're just about to go into qualifying. We haven't got a particularly massive grid, but obviously there's a lot of shit going on in the world at the moment. Now, Sebring is one of my favourite tracks. I don't know so much in this car. It can be very bumpy. It can be very slippery. What are you expecting from tonight's race?
Well, Sebring, I've done quite a lot of laps around here, as you have in the GT4 2 weeks. So we've got lots and lots of braking zones that people will take advantage of. The back straight is a key place for gaining time on people. We've seen from previous races that people aren't shy about competing for positions. Tonight we've got Mr. Johnny Brandon, who likes this track just like you do. So he's joined us for the first of these endurance races this time. So I think we're going to end up with some really close racing. It'll be bumper to bumper action at least for the first half of the race. And then we'll see how it pans out from there when pit stops and fuel strategies, etc., come into play.
So, just to remind the viewers and for anybody that's watching us for the first time, so this is a standalone series, and it's basically 10 rounds of 2-hour endurance races. The cars are limited to 70% fuel, so there will be pit stops. I would expect definitely 2, possibly 3 tonight. Sebring, Pete, it's one of those tracks, like you say, there are overtaking opportunities. There are places on the track where you have to be an absolute nutter to try and overtake. But we've seen in the past that, that doesn't normally stop people. But on the whole, Sebring does tend to, allow for the faster guys to get through as long as they can do it safely. Sunset Bend, always difficult. It's bumpy, it's slippery. That should really, even with a small grid, it should enhance the racing. And also, you can be 20 seconds in front, one little mistake, you're in the pit choosing your fast repair. So we could have a bit of everything, Pete.
Yeah, like I said before, you got long straights followed by really heavy braking zones, and the really fast guys, as we experience in the Racetech League, they're very, very good at braking very, very late. I don't know how they do it. They obviously modulate their braking way better than I do. Gives them a massive advantage on the way into the corner. They cruise through that portion as you approach the apex in such a way that they can get back on the gas well before the likes of me, for instance, can do so. And they're off down the track. There's some brutal little bits that you shouldn't be overtaking in. The S's at the start of the lap, the S's at the back end of the lap before the final straight. They are critical areas that you should avoid. If you get behind someone, then it's often a lot more safe to sit in their slipstream for just a little bit longer and then get that run onto whichever straight follows, because that's the most advantageous way in order to get past on this track. You can stuff it up the inside. After the little mini chicane, there is a right hand bend. A lot of people take advantage of that to dive bomb where the field is quite numerous. We don't have that right now. We've got 15 cars in the session, I think it is. I don't think we'll see the dive bombing. Certainly not at the front end of the field. So I think there's lots of opportunity. It's a concrete track, which is very, very different to a tarmac one. And like you say, Sunset, really bumpy bend. It kicks you out if you get it wrong. I've never managed to find whatever is that true perfect line round there. And it just pushes you out into that wall and to those, not haystacks, but the bumpy bit at the side. The bit that I find the roughest and toughest corner of all of these, and it's a personal thing, is turn 1. I have never yet got my braking point correct for that.
Yeah, and the two corners that you mentioned there, Sunset and Turn 1. I'm not sure what that's called, but there seems to be multiple lines through those corners. I know whenever I race here, I take a different line through those two corners on every single lap. So that does tend to again open up a few overtaking opportunities for people. People trying the wide entry and then cutting in, and somebody's going down the inside. So yeah, good track. Night race as well. So the temps should be cool, or cooler than usual. Brake markings tend to change a little bit in the dark as well. So, even though, as we said, 15 car grid at the moment, there's still a lot of things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry, Pete. I was just
No, I
before
was just going to
we.
say definitely, because you're chasing cat's eyes around here. The track's not lit. You're using your own headlights to find your own way around, which is a bit of a different situation to what you normally see on track racing. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, and thank the iRacing gods, because they have given us some better headlights with this new car. So just looking back with obviously this is round 3. Last time out we was at Spa. Your top 3 was Rich Warmingham, Greg Carr, and Steve LaValle. And for the championship, that puts Rich Warmingham top of the pile with Steve LaValle second and Tony Kloosterman third. So Marco Namella, some really good results last weekend in the main series, and looking fast tonight. George McLean, Johnny Brandon are up there as well. So we've got the top guys in the championship out on track, so they're going to be vying for positions right from the start, Pete, or do they go, you know what, it's a 2-hour race, let's bide me time?
I think there'll be a lot of time biding going on, if that's even a term. You'll see Rich Warmingham slowly stepping his way up the timing screen at the minute for his qualifying time. But from what I remember, he doesn't always qualify well. He kind of steps his way through the field and ends up first. That seems to be what's happened in the last few races. Greg Carr is in 6th at the minute. I think he'll step up a little. And he'll do the same sort of thing. That's why he's in the position he's at in the championship at the moment. Tony Kloosterman's a bit of a surprise right now, in the fact that he's 10th and not further up the league. Up the table. And Steve LaValle just behind him. So I don't think qualifying is going to do it this time, and I think everybody's going to pace themselves out. They know it's an endurance race. They're not going to win it on turn 1. I think it was Fernando Alonso that says, "Is it in order to finish first you've got to finish?" And most of these guys have got that in their head. They're not there for a one-turn wonder.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out quickly to Nikolai Bogotyrev, who's watching the broadcast at the moment. I don't know why he's watching and not out on track. Come on, Nikolai, what's the matter with you? Just going back to what you were saying there, Pete. Yeah, I agree. We've got good drivers out on track, and I think the beauty with these endurance events is that qualifying, unlike the sprints and the super sprints, is not the be all and end all. If you've got a good car, if you've got good pace, and you've got good tactics, it doesn't matter if you start at the back. There's still that chance that you're going to make your way to the front. And usually the cream does rise to the top. But like we said before, night race, long race, a lot of concentration. It doesn't matter if you're the fastest driver on track or the slowest driver on track. It's very, very easy to make a mistake. And a track like Sebring, it really depends on where you make the mistake as to the consequences. So, you could go for a 100-meter trip across the grass and just lose some time, or, another corner, you're straight in the barrier and you're either using your fast repair or you've got 10, 15 minutes of repairs to do on your car. But personally, coming to the end of qualifying, I'm really looking forward to this, Pete.
Yeah, this is going to be one of the more exciting ones, I think. You're right. If you crash on any of the corners in the first half of the lap, you've got a chance to get it back. If you crash towards the end of the lap, you're done. There's walls all around you at the second half of this particular circuit, and they're unforgiving at the best of times. It's going to be an exciting race. It's going to be a long race, and I think we'll see a lot of tactics playing out. One of the things that I like the most is the little blue light that's inside the cars that we've found before. I think that's a new addition to iRacing. It's something that I've never seen before. Thanks, Sam, for
It's like
demonstrating.
mood lighting.
Yeah, the mood lighting. Yeah. I think what might also play a particular role in this race is the amount of people in the world that are currently home watching films, etc., or playing games on their internet will be having an impact on people's broadband. It's certainly having a raucous effect on mine. And we'll have to see if that kicks in on anyone, because this is obviously sim racing. It's dependent upon having a broadband connection which is capable of fulfilling the needs of iRacing at the detail level that you require. And I wonder whether some people are going to hit some latency issues or frequency issues, etc.
Yeah, it's a shame when that does happen. And like we said, at the top of the broadcast, there's some funny shit going on in the world at the moment. But as a sim racer and a gamer in general, I'm quite good at self-isolating, keeping myself to myself, and
Been training our entire lives for this maneuver.
yeah, talking to people from across the world that I've never met face to face. Pete, I have met, unfortunately. One thing I just want to bring up before Sam gets a grid up for us is we are trying out some new software tonight for our broadcast. It's either going to make us look absolutely brilliant or more amateurish than normal. So if we do have any technical glitches, guys, just stick with us. We'll be back. So Sam, whenever you want, you can bring up the grid. And also, don't forget, people, about halfway through the race, we will be going into our usual ad break, just so that Pete can top up his wine glass and I can get a slice of cake.
Absolutely.
Shout out as well to Brother Bill, who can't be with us tonight. He's busy doing something else. So, Pete, I'll leave it up to you to run down the grid.
Marvellous. I've just lost my live timing screen. There we
Okay.
go. So, in first place, or in position one rather, is Johnny Brandon. Second is Marco Namela, who's been topping the timing screens all afternoon so far. George McClay is in third. Tony Klusterman has managed to get a fourth. Rich Warmingham, leader of the championship at the moment, is in fifth. Wayne Sanderson in sixth. Steve Lavalley in seventh, Greg Carr in eighth, Richard Allsop in ninth, and rounding out the top 10 is Ant Woodward.
And cars are gridding, and we are just waiting for the lights to go green. Round 3 of the Racetech V8 ESC Endurance Championship from Sebring. Lights are on. 1 red, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we're green. Cars panning out down the front straight into turn 1 for the first time. Oh, I think that was Hoffman. I just see taking an extreme wide line.
Yeah, he needs to reset his sat nav, I think.
So George McClay got ahead of Marco Namella there.
Yep, and all single file now with a similar gap between everybody, heading down to what could be a hairpin, but it's into a very tight chicane. Tony Klusterman's showing his nose.
Yeah, and so far everybody is safe. That's probably one of the trickiest spots on the track. First lap, cold brakes, cold tyres. Oh, we've got to move for second. Marco Namella trying to go past George McClay. Didn't pull it off that time.
George looked a bit out of shape leaving that turn, but he's managed to get himself a gap. Marco's now into the clutches of Tony Klusterman.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether Marco had to back out of that or take George out. But the more they battle, if Marco can get back on it, Tony Klusterman, ever the opportunist. If they're ever coming together, he'll be, thank you very much.
And another person saying thank you very much at the minute is Johnny Brandon, who in his first Enduro has disappeared off down the road a little bit. Heading into sunset now, although there is no sunset, it's night time.
Yeah, Tony just had an off track there on the grass. So he's lost a few positions.
And we're
I've just seen a lot of smoke there at the end of the back straight.
Yeah, I think that was Tony.
Yeah, I don't know whether he just went wide or whether he got to slow down as well.
Oh, I see, yes. We did have Wayne inside him for a minute, Wayne Sanderson.
You need to rephrase that. Somebody on the... oh, that's a replay of Tony. Yeah, he just dipped a couple of wheels onto the grass, then struggled to get back up to speed. There's cars swarming all around him. Just want to see what that lockup was at the end.
Well, it was Wayne, I think.
Yeah, I think it was Wayne. I think he went too hot into sunset.
Yeah. No damage to him though, he's still competitive, look. There's a few people locking brakes up. Actually, that was Tony that time, I think.
I must admit, I'm terrible for locking brakes around this track.
It's a concrete track though, isn't it? I don't think it's got the grip capabilities that asphalt has.
So Johnny Brandon is he's pulled out over a second over George at the moment.
We were side by side just ahead with Wayne Sanderson and Tony Klusterman. I think. Yep, Tony's got to slow down. He's been done by a couple of drivers there now.
And where did he pick that up that time? Was that on the entrance to the last corner?
I think it was. Yeah. He dove down to the inside very, very sharply. It's funny, you can go as wide as you want there, I find, when I'm racing, but you can't cut the corner at all.
No, there's a very fine line there, isn't there, for that slowdown?
Definitely.
And it's probably one of the worst ones in iRacing as well, because there's such a long straight after.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what tyre wear does around here as well, because as I found when we were doing the GT4s, the tyres seem to be good after about 2 laps, for about 4 laps, and then they just disappear. These things are a lot more powerful, these V8s. They get through tyres quite easily if you overstress the tyre. So we may see some people having to do the 3-stop strategy because tyres demand it.
Yeah, Tony's currently putting a lot of pressure on Lane O'Connor. Nice to see, I was going to say nice to see the old boy on track, but that could cover Tony or Lane. And Tony gets it done down the inside, and I believe that's Richard Alsop coming through as well.
Yeah, he threw everything at that one. He was
I
through there
noticed they
like
still
a
haven't
whippet.
sorted that paint out either. They've still got the white windows on the side.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but never mind. Yeah, but interestingly, Tony is in 9th and was in 10th. From his 4th position start, he's not doing so good at the minute, is he?
No, he's obviously had a couple of slowdowns, which hasn't helped. He's riding the curb that time, but yeah, that was a lot better.
Yeah, we're a bit strung out at the top of the field, so we've got 1.5 seconds between Johnny and George at the moment, and then between George and Marco, there's 1.3. So I don't know whether Johnny's managing that gap at the moment. I don't know whether that's even possible in these cars on these tyres. I suppose if anybody can do it, it's Johnny Brandon. He certainly seems very in control.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many laps they get out of their 70% race fuel. Obviously, once the first guys start pitting, we have got some information on pit stop times and things like that. So we should be able to, or shall we say, we'll get Pete to have a rough guess on how many pit stops we think it's going to take. And if he gets it wrong, feel free to abuse him in the chat.
That happens anyway. Everybody appears to have done, well, not everybody. A lot of people appear to have done their fastest lap on that last one, including Johnny Brandon, who's set the fastest lap of the race so far at 2 minutes flat, 0.353.
Yeah, so tyres up to temp, up to pressure, brakes nice and warm. Make the most of it because you get a couple of good laps and then things can start going south quite quickly.
Yeah, and it's very funny because, well, funny as in not ha funny. I try and take care of my tyres, and invariably it doesn't happen like that. And then other people are going around a couple of seconds faster than me, and they seem to make their tyres last for an eternity compared to what I do. And it's all about being smooth into braking zones, and even though they're braking several feet closer to the corner than I do, they still manage their tyres better than I do. It's a fascinating concept for me.
Yeah, I think it's all down, like you say, it's brake modulation, smooth on the steering inputs. There's a lot of things that can make your tyres wear out quicker. We're on the new tyre model with this new car as well. So there is a lot more to lose by abusing your tyres. Personally, I don't think it's quite where it should be yet, but it's getting there definitely.
It's certainly adding a different dynamic to iRacing in general. I think if we ended up with some brake degradation characteristics kicked in there as well, that'd all assist the reality of the simulator.
I'll tell you somebody who's not saving their tyres, and that is Tony Kloosterman.
Right.
Tony is wild around every corner. He's now trying to line up Ant Woodward for a pass.
That's teammate on teammate though,
yeah,
right?
and gives that up quite nicely.
Yeah, there was little resistance there, I think.
Resistance is futile. We've got Greg Carr
That's Wayne
and
passing
Wayne
Greg.
Sanderson in a side-by-side battle. But Wayne is winning at the moment.
Definitely. Not far behind Greg, really, is Tony again, so I think there'll be a multi-21 pulled there somewhere.
Oh, I'm not sure.
No?
Greg does like to beat Tony.
Right.
And to be fair, Greg is very, very quick in this new car as well.
He is shockingly quick in this car.
Compared with, he wasn't bad in the old car, but he's right up there in this.
Just seems to suit him. I was better in the old one, funnily enough. I don't know why. Probably because I was just used to it. This turn, you can save so much of a second round that turn. Sunset. There's a real true line going around there where you just pull the car in front and then there's a line that just sends you off a world apart from everybody else and costs you a fortune in time.
So I'm surprised to see Richard Alsop down in 10th as well. He's another driver that had some fantastic results last weekend. So I don't know whether he's just not got any practice in this week or whether it's a track that he doesn't like.
Yeah, Richard's. It might just be that he's not familiar or as familiar with the track, but usually every official race goes to Sebring at some point, doesn't it? Even MX5s and such do Sebring in some format or other.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not.
a much used track.
Yeah, definitely, and a lot of people like it as well. It's got a good flow to it. It's got all the characteristics you'd want in a track. Sharp braking zones, opportunities to overtake. It's not a one-line race track. It's got a lot of dynamic characteristics to it, and you get these lots of endurance races held there as well for that reason. I think you get less people binning it and wrecking their car in a wall, which is an attraction to a lot of people. It can be an unforgiving track in the fact that your car snaps around on itself at certain points through these S's here, where we're watching Richard at the moment. That can be horrible if you get on the wrong line into those corners, carrying the wrong amount of speed, and setting you up for this corner. That last one there, don't know its name. It's the start of the DRS zone at that point. If you're in a car that can do that, it's critical. You're watching Ant Woodward pulling away from Richard there because he got a better drive onto that back straight.
Yeah, and then going into Sunset is where it can all go wrong. You get on the brakes slightly wrong, you start hitting them bumps, and I think, as Pete said earlier, the next thing, the track has spat you out into that outside wall.
Yeah, it's horrible. Those bumps are brutal as well. You get some bumps on some other tracks around Michigan. Oval is one that's horrendously bumpy when you get into turn 3 and 4. But this one just for me it catches you off guard when it grabs you and when you're bouncing around that corner. It's just unsettling.
Yeah, and I think, for a road course as well, you're hard on the brakes, you're turning, and then you've got bumps to worry about. Depending on your line, inside wall, if you get the bumps outside wall. So there's a lot of things all going on at once in Sunset. It's a fantastic corner.
Yeah, it is fantastic. Turn one's one of those corners that it's a grit your teeth and not close your eyes so much, but you're not far from it. Because if you've got to leave your I get on the gas far too late there, as you were telling me when I was racing the GT4s last week. And I'm like that in every car. But there's a lot of people that get on the gas good and early there and drive right through that corner and straight onto that little straight down to the kink before turn 2. It's just a bracing corner on the track that you take at high speed.
Yeah, so we're on board with Richard Alsop at the moment. Now, he either heard what we were saying in the broadcast or somebody's told him, because he is really, really pushing now. And this is a fantastic overtaking opportunity into Sunset. It wasn't quite close enough. Now, it did, I don't know to you, Pete, but it looked like the toe wasn't quite there in this car.
With this car, I find with this car, you need a very long straight or a very high gear set in order to tow properly. You're more likely to get it here, to be honest. On the back,
Yeah, and again, this is another corner where, when you're trying to overtake, just do the opposite to what the car in front of you is doing.
Yeah.
So if they take it shallow, you take it wide, and vice versa. It's really the only way you can get round there, unless the other driver makes a mistake.
Yeah, absolutely. And what you saw in turn 1 there was Richard carrying too much speed into that braking zone and had to straighten out the first part of the corner. Because he'd straightened the first part out, he couldn't get the turn that he needed to follow Ant Woodward through that corner and get the advantage he needed into the next section of the track. So now he's having to play catch up again.
Yeah, exactly. To get past there, to that wide line and cut in up against that inside wall, and then try and get down into that little section at the end there on the inside. Leave the car on the outside an option whether to turn into you or.
Yeah, and I'm just going to prove myself pretty much correct here. So Rich Warmingham, he qualified a little lower down than he is now, starting to step his way forward through the field, as is Steve Lavallee right behind him, 1.5 seconds behind him. They're starting to make their way forward, and this is something that we see in each of the enduro races that we've had so far. It's a fascinating little league to see, and it is a little league. It's 15 cars, not the 30+ cars that we see in the regular Racetech league. So it has its own dynamic. This endurance format.
Yeah, and obviously Wayne has left Greg behind and is now putting some pressure on Steve. Now, we've got another one as well. We've got Richard Alsop having a go at Ant Woodward again.
Same turn. Yeah, same turn. He needs to cut back on him.
Oh, that's a lot better. That's a lot better.
Lovely. Richard, well done. Is he going to carry this?
This is where the car on the outside really has no choice but to yield.
Yeah, absolutely. You couldn't have written that better.
Yeah, so Richard is obviously listening to us. So just going back to what I was talking about with Steve Lavallee and Wayne Sanderson, Steve is a very measured, cool, calm driver. I wouldn't expect him to put up too much of a fight, if I'm honest. He's a point banker, shall we say?
Yes, absolutely. I'd agree with that every day of the week. And if I'm looking at the timing screens correctly at the moment, I'd say that Johnny Brandon didn't have the best of last laps in the fact that he did a 2:02.254, and everybody behind him pretty much did a better lap than he did.
And Tony Kloosterman has also got past Greg Carr, just to let you know. I don't know whether that was a multi-21. It surprised me if it was.
Yeah, didn't see that happen, to be honest. On the little alert screen, it says Andrew Hoffman crashed, and he's out. Did I miss something along the lines there somewhere?
Let's have a look now. We've got the replay on screen.
This is our new technology, people.
Ah, yes. Yes. The same mistake that millions of drivers have made.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'd love to say that I'd not done that one, but we've got Wayne closing in on someone here.
It's the Wayne and Steve battle.
It is. I think Steve's going to have a little bit more long game patience here. He might find that he doesn't resist Wayne's attentions too much. This is the closest battle we have on track at the moment, although Ant Woodward is closing in on Richard Alsop again.
He's probably just worried that you're going to say Wayne is inside Steve.
There's a few more cars locking tyres, particularly inside tyres, on a number of the hard braking zones at the moment as well.
Yeah, so we're on lap 10, so, we're getting there. Somebody will blink soon, I believe.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think car 16, Andrew Hoffman, is out and gone.
Yeah, he's quit.
Yeah, he doesn't seem to be on any screens at the moment. That's a shame. Not taking the field was Jamie Wilson and Nikolai Bogatyrov, as you referred to at the beginning.
Yeah, Nikolai's got technical difficulties with his video card overheating. Must be hot in Russia.
Yeah. Well, we've all had that historically, haven't we? My old graphics card used to nearly set itself on fire. Yeah, dear.
Now, to me, it looks like the top three are closing up on each other.
And this is what I was mentioning before. So Johnny Brandon, I think, may have overcooked his tyres, and is dropping back into the clutches of George McClay. Definitely, he's not done his Sterling 2 seconds flat laps for a long time. And you've got the two behind him, George McClay and Marco Namela, chipping away at him 4/10 and 3/10 per lap. Each bit will be visible to Johnny's relative screen, and he'll be very aware of that. Rich Warmingham, on the other hand, he's got to a point in the field, and I think he's lost his tyres now as well. Steve Lavallee, I think, is going to start closing up on him now.
Yeah, but interestingly, Rich was 8 seconds behind Marco, and now I've got him at just over 6.
Yeah, me too.
So he does seem to be closing.
Maybe it was just a bad lap he had last lap round.
So Wayne Sanderson is still on the back of Steve Lavallee, and Tony Kloosterman is closing in on the pair of them.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a little three-way battle going on here. I don't think
Yeah, and I'm
Tony's
sure
going to
Greg
waste too
Carr
much time.
will join on the back of that as well.
Once people start pulling out and showing their noses and losing by doing that, definitely he'll be on the back of that little group. This is where endurance racing is fascinating, because you end up with the concertina effect of people stretching their leads and then losing their tyres, and because the race is so long, it's very, very evident. I mean, you saw Wayne lock his left-hand tyre just then, trying to get the inside line on the car in front, which is Steve Lavallee. These things all play out in such a more obvious fashion, whereas with a sprint, you get through these transitions very, very quickly, and everybody does it at the same time. In an endurance race, people have got different tactics, and they hit these different peaks and troughs at different points in the race.
Yeah, because, as we said at the start, endurance, mindset of most people is, I don't have to win it or bin it and, to try and get past this car in front because it's a long race. So you do tend to show a little bit of patience, but then the car behind you is then going, oh, hang on, he's held up behind him. I'm going to push a little bit harder, and then I can get on the back of it. So that's how these fields spread out, close up, over a 2-hour race.
Yeah, absolutely. Greg Carr's being dropped by this little three, by the way, just as a point of interest. These guys are pulling away. Wayne Sanderson's getting that horrible little pocket of air behind the car in front now, which unsettles the front end of your car. It's dumping air on the bonnet of your car, and you're not getting the slipstream that you want when you're going through corners.
I don't think they're actually holding each other up at the moment, which is what Greg really needs to get onto the back of this. Like you say, once people start either making a mistake or, showing a nose down the inside and slowing each other up, then I'll expect Greg just to cruise up on the back. And interestingly, up front, George McClay is now under a second from Johnny Brandon.
I think Johnny's had a little moment there somewhere, because it suddenly dropped, and now it's extending slightly again.
Yeah,
So I
so
think there's
Ant
something going on.
Woodward has pitted.
Ah. So maybe Ant has got through his tyres a lot quicker than everybody else.
I can't find any info on Ant's pit stop, but we've definitely got an event that he entered the pit lane and left the pit lane.
He used his fast repair, did he? Oh, he may have done, right, okay. Yeah, and oddly, George McClay's now closed right up on Johnny again. So, again, this fascinating endurance weirdness is going on all the time. We've got to stick with this little group here, which is headed by Steve LaValle, because they are the closest race. Oh, although George McClay is within 0.2 of a second now. He's very much pushing. This must be the pre-pit stop push to do as much as you can. Use the last bit of tyre. So I think we might see more people following Ant Woodward, potentially, at this point. In fact, is that Ollie Christian Unneberg in pit lane? Yes, he's just entered the pits, yeah. And I've got him down as 24.4 in the pits. Oh, and we've got a slowdown, possibly, for Steve LaValle. Either that or he's defending his line off a bad exit. And Wayne's gone round the outside of him on that point of the turn. And now he's in, and Tony's bailed for the pit lane as well.
So, little under half an hour in, and we've got the first pit stop. So, I think we are definitely looking at 3, Pete, maybe 4.
Yeah, I was just wondering about that, because this is half an hour in, and that would schedule itself for a 4 pit stop race. I can't believe that anybody'd stretch themselves out to a 4 pit stop. I think 3 is probably the maximum limit. I don't know how he's going to stretch it out from here, though. I think he's got
we
through his
might
tyres
see
quite quick.
splash and dashes. I don't know.
Yeah.
George
Meanwhile,
McClay is putting a lot of pressure on Johnny Brandon now.
certainly is.
And that's obviously bringing Marco Namella into it.
Eventually it will. He's a good 1.4 seconds behind at the moment, but I don't know whether we'll have a look and see if Johnny's car shows any behavioural issues, as it were, going through some of the tighter turns, which will be an indication that he's losing adhesion with the floor, is the term I think they use. And we'll switch to Tony. Tony's gone out across a corner there, I think.
That's Tony out of the pits on cold tyres, I think.
Yeah, that's the cold tyre effect, people. It is brutal on this tyre model now. You get nothing for the first half of the lap, fine. Second half of the lap, absolutely no grip, and then it starts to come to you.
Okay, leaders are staying out.
These guys think they've got the grip that'll last them for a few more laps, clearly. Although with Johnny, I'd be questioning that.
Yeah, this definitely puts them in 3 stops.
Yeah. And it looks like Ole Christian Unneberg may have left the session.
Yeah, I've just noticed that. I've got Marco Namella has crashed. I don't know if we can find that, Sam.
I have also got that, yeah.
Okay, let's have a look.
Oh, he's gone straight on.
Yeah, straight on.
Overcut.
Actually, yeah, it turned into a very good save. It wasn't really a crash.
Crash is a bit of an exaggeration there, isn't it? I've got a real world situation, so I'll be back very shortly.
Yeah, I think Pete has probably got his mother's underwear on and has got a little bit tangled. So I'm sure
It's just back to front, that's all.
it's either that or the cat's got his claw in his knackers. Okay, so coming to the end of lap 15. Let's see what these top two do this time. And they're staying out again. Marco Namella has pitted. That was Richard Alsop going wide there. And Woodward slipping past. Steve LaValle is in. So the quickest pit stop we've had so far is 24.4, longest of 26.4.
Yeah, we should see longer pit stop now because people used more fuel. Yeah, Marco Namala just did 29.4 on his last pit stop.
Yeah, Marco Namella 29.3, Steve LaValle 30.6. So I would guess those guys have run it almost dry and then gone for the fill up. It'd be interesting to see what Brandon and McClay's pit times are going to be when they come in.
You think there'd be a little bit more with putting more fuel in, but I don't see either of them with any damage at all.
No, I don't think either of them have had any incidents, so to speak. So they're going on to the back straight now. We'll stay with them, see if they pit the end of this lap. So at the moment, the top 8 haven't pitted.
It's good information. There's a lot of pressure here at Sunset. There was an attempt.
They're both in.
Both in, right.
So, Marco Namella, do you get the undercut, or did that little mishap cost you?
More to the point who is that? Is that Greg Carr? No, it's Ant Woodward, isn't it? Is he going to go for another lap? No.
So Tony Kloosterman is currently in 9th, but he's leading those that have pitted. So he's actually 3.5 seconds ahead of Marco. So Marco's lost out there. Tony comes round. Sunset.
Bouncing around that corner, wasn't he?
McClay and McClay's jumped Brandon in the pit stop.
That's bizarre.
And Tony's going to be right on him with warm tyres.
He really is as well. Splendid work from Tony Kloosterman.
So
he's a number of laps behind him, though, isn't he? If you know what I mean.
Yeah, George McClay, his pit stop was a second quicker than Johnny Brandon. That's how he got past him in the pit.
And if you look back, Tony Kloosterman's was 26.4. So what? Nearly 8 seconds or something like that.
Yeah.
Short, less fuel.
I don't know whether he short filled or whether he filled up, but from a more full position, shall we say?
Yeah. Either way, he's going to be on better tyres with less fuel in his tank.
Yeah, I think when you extrapolate it forward, though, it looks like Tony is probably going to have to now take 2 full tanks, whereas George and Johnny can probably do a slight short fill on the 3rd stop.
Yeah, true. Oh, we've got a spinner. Who is that?
That's Steve LaValle.
Steve LaValle. That was brilliant camera work, Sam. Well done.
Gets passed by Greg Carr just to rub some salt in the wound.
Yeah. back on him now, though. So at the front, let me put it back on interval again.
Yeah, so these two guys at the front have got 2.2 seconds over Tony Kloosterman. Side by side, Lavalley and Carr. Lavalley goes past, locks his brakes up, but gets the move done, so he gets that position back. So I don't know whether Tony took extra life out of his tyres, pitting early and banging in some lap times to get up there with McClay and Brandon. But they'll be getting their tyres up to temp now.
I think that's probably the case because he had a few issues on his first couple of laps, didn't he? With a couple of off tracks and getting caught out by the cold tyres, etc. Which has probably worked through some of that tyre wear very quickly.
But after the first round of pit stops, it's definitely a net gain for Tony.
I would say so. Obviously, at the end of this stint, when Johnny and George pit again, that's the true understanding of where they're at. And this lap will tell us a lot as well. So what time is Tony capable of doing compared to the two in front of him?
Yeah, and again, that is the beauty of endurance racing. So we're guessing that it's 2 full stops and a slightly less fuel stop. Tony's obviously played his hand early. So, the order's going to keep changing. And we're really not going to get, unless there's any big accidents, we're not going to know the full shakedown until after the third and final stop.
No, true. Tony is getting dropped by these two quite significantly, I think. Like half a second slower than the two cars in front of him. And Marco Nomela behind him has just banged in the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, I think the front two, everything's up to temperature, up to pressure now. And if the first stint is anything to go by, Johnny pulled away from George. So whether Johnny can put some big pressure on George now, try and force him into a mistake, because I think George is probably being a little bit easier on his tyres. And Johnny could find himself dropping away from George before the next pit stop.
Yeah, George is a very smooth driver, isn't he? So it's almost as though he's not that bothered. He will be, but it's almost as though he's not that bothered about where he qualifies because he knows he's got the smooth driving style to get him back to the front. What you've got going on here, though, is Marco Nomela putting a lot of pressure on Tony Kloosterman. And he's going to start showing his nose, I think, on this back straight now. We're in car with Marco at the minute, going through these final S's. We're going to grab a bit of both of these curbs and go wide. What looks like massively off the racing line just behind us there to get a good drive off this corner. That last corner was the one where we said if you cut it too much you get a massive slowdown. It's absolutely disproportionate to the amount of track that you've cut. As we head towards sunset now, hopefully you'll see how bumpy this corner is as you go around it. It's a shocker just here. Yeah, oh, it's brutal. He's lost the back end a bit. Tony will get away from him now because he was smoother through there. He hit less bumps, and that is effectively what defines success around that corner. And the speed you carry onto this straight, and then around this corner is the one that I hate because I can never get it right. These two have done a great job, and he's following in his tracks absolutely. Easier to follow a car around there. We're going to tuck very tight into both of these inside apexes and onto the corner of that one actually. As we go around here onto this straight, which will come to us in a second after this right-hander. Tony's pulled away a little bit through there.
Yeah, it's surprising. Marco's got 2 Marco's tyres are 2 laps fresher than Tony's, so he needs to make or take the use of that advantage now rather than waiting, because the tyres will just equalise and they'll both be as bad as each.
Yeah, and Tony's a thinker, so he'll know that he's got older tyres. He'll be trying to conserve them. He's probably letting the two in front go somewhat in order to get that advantage reduced, so that he can compete later on in the race. He may well be in a position where he lets Marco go to some degree, but he'll want him to race for it, if nothing else.
I've never seen Tony give up a podium position, if I'm
Oh,
honest.
what have we got going on here?
We've got Greg Carr and Steve LaValle going at it. Looks like a good, clean move by Greg. These two have gone backwards and forwards quite a bit so far.
Absolutely. This is a bit of a back and forth situation between these two. Their capability at this track is obviously very, very balanced. I think this will go on for quite a long time. It's very exciting, if nothing else.
Yeah, I'm not sure whether Steve LaValle is genuinely on pace with Greg or not. It may be that Greg makes the odd mistake, Steve gets past him. Somebody's gone wide there. I believe that was Tony Kloosterman going wide and letting Marco Namella pass him.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right.
That was the 2 lap fresher tyres paying off there.
I think so. Or rather than the 2 lap older tyres given in competition. At the moment, though, we've got Ant Woodward. Oh no, sorry. Is it Steve LaValle again? Yeah, Steve LaValle.
So interestingly, Rich Warmingham, 2.2 seconds behind Tony on 3 lap fresher tyres. So it'll be interesting to see if Rich can do the same to Tony that Marco did.
I expect he will do. I mean, Rich Warmingham's got pedigree at this enduro event. He is leading the championship after all. He's going to struggle to catch the guys at the very front, who are in very close proximity with each other. I think this is going to go on for the entire race. It seems like Johnny has an advantage in some corners and a disadvantage in others. George seems to be very good at getting onto the gas, onto the straights, whereas Johnny seems to be good at on the brakes into the corners.
Yeah, and strangely, that seemed to be the exact opposite at the end of the last stint. So Johnny was getting the power down better coming out of the corners, but George was quicker through the corners, hence why he took all that time out of Johnny.
Yeah, true. We'll have to see how this transpires, but to be this far in to an endurance race and have the front two so close and other battles so close to one another as well, it's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, so we got Rich Allsop now is putting a lot of pressure on Steve LaValle. Steve just put a couple of wheels on the grass, and that was an easy pass for Rich Allsop.
Yeah, definitely. He's making his way through the field now, which is quite good. And Steve LaValle just dropping off his rear end at the moment. Next car for Richard is Greg Carr, who has pedigree in the endurance races as well.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think Steve LaValle is a point hoarder. He does what he needs to do to score maximum points without taking too many risks. And that's the way he drives. So, he's doing well at the moment. Rich Warmingham has took about half a second out of Tony Kloosterman. McClay and Brandon are still very, very close. And at the moment, Marco Namella in third. I think because the front two are not really slowing each other down, he's not really making any inroads into them.
No,
That
not
little
yet.
mistake seems to have cost him dear at the moment. Obviously, the time he lost with his little half spin, and then a bit of time he lost stuck behind Tony Kloosterman.
Yeah. And these two seem to, well, again, same as last lap, really. Constantine are up at certain points. He was only 0.2 something of a second behind George a moment ago, and now they've strung themselves out a little bit again. You've got to wonder whether Johnny's trying to force George into some sort of issue, some sort of mistake, because it's not going to be easy for him to get past. They are so well matched going round here. See, they're
Yeah,
very
they
close
certainly
again.
are.
Yeah, very close again.
So Rich Allsop has just took half a second out of Greg Carr on the last lap, so he's now within half a second.
Yeah, Greg had a bit of a slow lap that time round, and I'm not sure why. And look how close Johnny is now. I mean, he's nearly holding the steering wheel of George's car. It's just a bit ridiculously close.
I think George is so good on the brakes, though, it just makes any pass that much more difficult.
Yeah, it is difficult. And he, when the car behind gets close, he doesn't sit so close to the apex, does he? He makes it a little bit wider. It's all very tactical, and it's awe-inspiring, really, because I have no idea how these guys drive in that kind of class.
Well, 47 minutes in, so we're not even halfway yet. So, we've got first and second, good battle. Third, fourth, and fifth. Greg Carr, third, fourth, fifth, maybe sixth. Seventh, eighth, and ninth are fairly close. And Woodward is currently circulating on his own. And the old boy Lane O'Connor is currently in the Winderlicker class, circulating on his own. So, good on Lane. He's still going. He's still there. But
He's
get a shift on, mate.
He's probably got smooth FM playing in his car, hasn't he?
I would have thought classic FM, something like that.
Something like that. Yeah, something to chill out to.
He's probably painting a fence while he's driving, and eating a bit of haggis.
So yeah, George and Johnny only half a second apart still. Going down this straight, this is where Johnny reels him in somewhat. Gets right onto his bumper as they go into this little tiny chicane here. And then it stretches out again for a little bit, and we seem to be in a little war of attrition somewhat. I mean, that's close there. Is that Richard Allsop again on the back of Greg Carr?
He certainly is. He's 2/10 behind. That's a great view, that is, when somebody's trying to make an overtake.
Absolutely. It's a good camera angle that for this track, isn't it? Especially in a night race like this. It looks like he's lining him up now, showing his nose a bit there, just to say, hello, I'm still here.
Yeah, his best bet, to be honest, though, is just to try and, you see he loses the nose there because he's under the rear wing. But if he can keep as close as possible and then just try and use that toe down the back straight.
Yeah, this next few corners, the next two actually, are critical here.
Yeah, so Steve LaValle has just had a little half spin.
That's the same place he spun before, isn't it?
You could be right there.
I think it is.
I hate to admit it.
Yeah, that's usually what I do, isn't it? Crashing on the same corner twice. Only at Bathurst, though, yeah. Right, then, here we go. He needs to slingshot his way out of this one. And get right on the sticks of Greg in front of him. Get this corner right, out wide, and then cut in. Greg's right on that perfect line, so he's not going to get it done there. This is going to wait till the next straight now, because there's nowhere really sensibly to overtake through the next 3 corners.
No, your next opportunity, like you say, is down into that sort of chicaney, hairpinny, awful bit. But he's too far back. He's really got to be right under his rear wing when he comes off of that corner, or going onto the back straight. It's too easy to defend through the twisty parts.
It is, yeah. And the next place that people like to try and overtake me in particular is into this corner now. And it's not an option in my opinion. It's just too much of a dive bomb. And they both go through there in absolutely professional fashion. That was very good from both of them. Again, not really an overtake into here because it's almost off camber, that corner. It feels horrible when you get it wrong through there, and brilliant when you get it right.
Yeah, this is just follow my leader in it through this part.
Yeah, one line through here, and he's far back from him at the moment, although he closed that up well. You've got to be right on someone's 6 when you're coming around this next corner here. Don't cut the corner because you'll get slowed down. Get on the gas and let the slipstream do what it should. But in this car, because they're so powerful...
I don't think he was close enough.
No, I don't either. And you got to hug the inside of Sunset in order to stop the advantage from the car behind.
Yeah, it looked to me as if he just started reeling him in at the end of the straight.
Oh, that looks
hold on
tasty.
to it, hold on to it. It's a cracking battle, this.
It really is. Needs to be calm going through here and get on the gas good and early. The car in front was better that time again. They're very evenly matched, these two, at the moment. A lock up from Greg Carr in front. Closes right up on his boot lid there. That's fantastic. Oh dear.
Yeah, they both pitted on the same lap as well, so their tyre life should be pretty much identical. Although saying, we was talking earlier about Rich Warmingham having newer tyres than Tony Clouston, and Tony Clouston is actually dropping Rich.
He is. It's not by much each lap, but he is definitely dropping him. It's probably just Tony's experience kicking in, to be honest. These two are going to carry on at this for a long time.
Close
I think.
this time.
He is very close. You want to be stepping out about now. Oh, yeah, just as I said it.
Should
now
get it done from here.
It's tasty, this, because if you lock up on the inside, you take out your competitor on the outside. Whoa,
Greg,
what are you doing, Greg?
I was just going to say, if Greg can hold it round the outside, it gives him the inside for turn 1. But, yeah,
Hats
commentators curse without saying.
Yeah, good pass, Richard. That was excellent.
So, we are getting towards pit stop time. For, obviously, those that pitted early last time, probably got a few more laps in the tank, but if somebody wants to take their short fill now, they can. And I would just like to add that this new software that we're using, I've got too much shit to look at. I've got Lane O'Connor has crashed. He's dropped his haggis in his lap.
He has. Where is he?
But he's still going.
Is he? He must have put his sporran back on then. Yeah, he's crossed the line. Be interesting.
In the event viewer, Sam.
Yeah. So holding the fastest lap of the race up to now is Marco Namela with 2-minute flat .199, which is, well, a fair amount above everybody else, to be honest, but he's only done it once, as it were. And at the moment, we've got George in first place, George McClay. Second place is Johnny Brandon. Third place is Marco Namela. Fourth is Tony Klusterman. And rounding out the top 5 is Rich Warmingham. I'm just going to talk new broadcasting tool to Clyde for a second. You know, on your timing tower, your dark blue columns, you can also click on those as well, and it'll add them into your on screen. And Johnny Brandon is closing on George again. He's been within 0.2 several times. He's obviously having a whale of a time, the pair of them are. And he's right on his boot lid again at the minute, but they are both in such control of their vehicles, it's frightening.
Okay, so we are inching towards the hour mark and halfway, lap 28 at the moment. So we're going to probably be looking at a 59.60 lap race, I believe. Greg Carr's been off track.
Yeah, but he's rejoined, which is good. Oop, lots of tyre smoke off that one. So that means that Tony must have wrung a few more laps out of his tyres this time, because he pitted on lap 13, whereas most other people pitted on lap 16 last time.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of getting at earlier. I think it's a 3-stopper, and 2 of those stops
He's
need
in.
to be full tanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, gee. Tony, man, what you doing? He was tasty with that entry, wasn't he?
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he did get that stopped. So we've also got Wayne Sanderson closing in on Rich Warmingham.
Mm-hmm. What lap count are we on, by the way? Sorry.
We are on lap 29.
9, right, okay. Well, they did 16 laps the first time round, so we're looking at lap 32, or is it not that
30?
obvious?
Yeah, I think lap 16 was drain the arse out of it. So yeah, I think if people are are going to drain it again, it's going to be lap 32 for their second stop, 48 for the third one. But then obviously there's only going to be 11 or 12 laps left, which is where that short fuel comes in.
Splash and dash for that one. So Tony's dropped himself down to 9th place in the offsetting. He's added on, is that 2 laps technically then? Because he pitted on lap 30 in the first time. The same again would be lap 26. So he's done a 16 lap stint. No, 15 laps.
Yeah, so yeah, I think Tony took his short fill in that first stop, and now he's going to have to fill it up for the next 2 stops, or the next stop.
Who's
That's
that going
Tony
wild?
Again.
On new tyres, yeah. That happened last time, didn't it?
Yeah, so maybe the same place again.
Right.
Marco's in the pits.
Oh, is that Marco? Sorry, they're in the same paint scheme. Right.
Steve Lavalley is in the pits.
Oh, look how close Johnny is now.
I don't know if it's a glitch, but I've got Rich Alsop out.
Yeah, I've got the same on my screens. That'd be a shame if that was the case, because he was doing very well. Well, that is a shame then.
Any idea what happened, Sam?
Oh. Bit of gardening. No? That's very strange. Maybe you got a connectivity issue or something.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. Rich Alsop throughput fell.
Oh dear. See, for everybody watching, that's what I would have ended up with tonight, because the amount of people using broadband at the moment often leaves your bandwidth in such a state that you've not got enough to run a simulator of that demands as much as iRacing does. When I'm doing the broadcasting, it's fine, but obviously Richard's succumbed to the same thing. That's a massive shame.
So we're expecting the leaders in. It'll either be the end of this lap or the end of the next one, I would have thought.
I'm going to go with the end
John
of the neck.
managed to save a bit of fuel behind George, maybe? He's been with him for the whole stint.
Oh. What's going on here? Oh, hello. Is that
Oh,
Johnny? Wow.
an uncharacteristic mistake from Mr. Brandon.
It certainly is. That's going to set him quite a way back, because that's quite a slow corner there, isn't it? So you drive off, it's quite critical. And Wayne is now creeping in on Rich Warmingham. Obviously, we're a bit staggered here. Marco Namela is also pitted, as well as Tony Klusterman and Steve Lavalley. So they've got their pit stops in early. Based on what you were saying before, Clyde, if you're going to have 11 or 12 laps at the end of in the last stint, it doesn't matter too much if you pit early, right?
No, it shouldn't do. Again, you know, when you've got races with multiple pit stops, it gives you so many options. So you can go full splash, full splash, full splash, full. Or you can do 3 equal stops where you're not quite taking a full tank. I think ultimately, you know, they're all about the same length. It gives you the same race length, but it depends on what you've got on track. Are you stuck in traffic? You know, there's all those sort of things. Maximum use of the tyres. You know, on our bog standard feature races, for instance, I do like to pit halfway through the 45 minutes, because that way I feel that I'm getting the best out of both sets of tyres. But there are people that pit early, there are people that pit late. So yeah, you know, pit stops just add so much strategy into things.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say just then? Forgotten. Wayne Sanderson's in the pits with Ant Woodward at the same time, which promotes Tony Klusterman back up the field somewhat. So the first 4 haven't pitted just yet. The first car pitted at the moment on your screens is Marco Namela, who is one of the fastest guys around this track at the moment.
Yeah, and interestingly, Marco's ahead of Tony after this pit stop where he was stuck behind him last time.
That's got a bit of information because I hadn't realised that. That's interesting. So we'll have to see how that transpires. He's a good 6 seconds ahead of him at the moment as well. So we'll have to see what happens after some of these top guys, like the George, Johnny, Rich, Greg, pit, and see where everybody lands after that. Where everything falls out, as it were. Oh, who's that going into the pit lane now?
George.
Oh, that is George. So your race leader has entered pit lane, and Johnny has not. That's a surprise to me.
Well, I see. I think the first stint, Johnny pulled away a second and a half from George, so George had to keep the pedal to the metal to stop falling back any further and then ultimately catch him and pass him in the pit lane. In this stint, I think Johnny was under George's rear wing the whole time and has been able to manage to save some fuel.
See, I think this, controversially, I don't agree with you. I think that him staying out now is as a result of his spin at the corner he's approaching now. And he wants to gain as much time on low fuel, i.e. he can put in a faster lap, he thinks, on low fuel at this point to get some of that time back.
Bullshit. Sorry, can I say that loud?
He coughed it quite loudly, yeah.
So you expect Johnny to pit this lap? Well, he must be running on fuel.
He has to. He has to. He's going to be out of fuel, I reckon. Marco Namela, in the meantime, is doing a brilliant job of closing in on George McClay.
How has he done that?
He's done that in the pits. George McClay pitted for 32.3 seconds. Marco did 29.3, albeit three laps before him.
So Marco might have just been taking 2 short fuels, whereas George will probably get that.
Hold your breath. This is tasty. Around the outside, I don't think that's going to work, Marco. But you might get him on the back straight. You've got better tyres. Oh, George locked up. Oh, this is good, viewers. This is excellent stuff.
I think George can afford to let him go, you know, because George's last pit stop is going to be about 20 seconds. Yeah.
All right.
Leaders in the pits.
Have to see what his time comes out like. These guys are on the back straight at the minute, heading towards sunset, side by side. That's not good. That's going to cost both of them time. Is he going to do him around the outside? Oh, what's that? That's contact. Was that contact?
That was, well, it looked like contact to me.
Yeah, definitely. They are still side by side, and Johnny still hasn't left the pits. Oh, he's leaving the pits now, according to the timing screen.
This is going to get tasty.
This really is.
Still side. No. Well done. Well, I think George has been very, very sensible there.
But look how far back Tony is, and look how much further back Johnny is. What's going on?
Yeah, so Johnny's behind Tony because of that spin.
Yes, that is it, isn't it? The spin has knocked him back 3 places.
But I don't know why George is fighting.
No, neither do I. He's done it now.
Yeah, he's got past him. I think George could have just done him in the pits on the final stop.
Yeah, that was dangerous going through sunset like that. I mean, well, they did. I think they made contact, but I've got nothing on any screen.
I think they made contact.
Yeah, they surely made contact, and I think George now has better tires than Marco did do, and you want to take advantage of this.
I've also got Johnny going off track after he come out of the pits.
Oh, yes. Sorry, yeah, I've got that as well.
And there it
Ooh.
is, folks.
That's a big off track as well. That's not like a little excursion.
Yeah,
That's
luckily he didn't hit
happening.
anything, though.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was saying. The first half of the lap, you're all right. The second half of the lap, there's walls all over the place. It's going to get you. This is probably the most exciting endurance race I've ever viewed.
I was in one once. I think it was at Bathurst in the V8s.
If you
And that
say
was a
anything about the
really,
end lap,
really
you
exciting race. Apart from the numpty that was my teammate kept crashing the car in the same place.
I'll do better next year. Yeah. Chances are we're going to still be in lockdown. We'll still be doing iRacing instead of real racing. Maybe I'll do better. Yeah. Anyway, back to the real race. So George leads Marco by about point nothing. Looking at that, of a second. Tony Klusterman 5 seconds behind, and given the fact that he was nearly 20 seconds behind at one point, he's done a fantastic job of pulling that back. Johnny's slipped backwards. Oh, we got Johnny doing something new.
Same place.
Same corner. That's the Bingham effect, that.
Come on, Brandon, sort your life out. Right, Sam, I think it's about time we hit our commercial break.
Okay. For the time being, we will jump on board with George, as he's the leader at the moment.
Cool.
And we shall go and fill our glasses, folks, and we shall be back soon.
Hi, my name's David Black from Racetech Seats in New Zealand. We've been designing seats for 20 years now for race cars and have come up with some philosophies that we believe are necessary in a race car to support the driver and to get him home safe. Data collected from around the motorsport world over many years shows that if a driver is well enough supported in a crash, he can survive some big impacts. So the areas of the body that need to be supported are the head, the neck, the shoulder and the torso. If those areas are kept in alignment with each other, then the driver can handle some pretty big G-forces. Racetech has developed a range of seats over those years which incorporates good strong head restraint, square shoulders to support the upper torso. And then on top of that, we fix the seat at the shoulder level to the chassis or the roll cage, hence transferring that load directly to the chassis in an impact. So this is exactly what I'm talking about here. Just one of our standard brackets for back mounting to the roll cage. So obviously with this fixed to the roll cage, there's absolutely no way that the top of the seat can move at all. So therefore the driver obviously gets much better feel of what's happening in the race car. And as you saw in the crash footage, the seat that had the shoulder fixing, the brackets are virtually untouched. The brackets that were on the seat when there was no back fixing at the shoulder level are really deformed. That's what happens with the load going down to the side brackets only. So the 3 points of difference that a Racetech back mounted seat has is firstly that it gives the driver a much better chance in an accident because the seat's so much stronger and better supported to the chassis. The second one, and it's a comment we get from a lot of drivers around the world, is that it gives them better feel of the race car, so hence they can drive faster for longer. And the third one is engineers have been telling us that they actually believe they're getting better structural integrity of the car because the seat is such a strong part of the car and three-way fixed. Our two main ranges of seats that follow this philosophy is our 119 and 129 range of seats. The 129 range of seats meets the latest FIA standard and obviously incorporates these same philosophies of back fixing at the shoulder. Here at Racetech, we want drivers to win races and get home safe.
This particular vehicle was set up with a full containment race seat, specifically designed for drag racing and road racing, and this drag car is required to have 2 seats. This full containment seat has back mounting designed to keep the driver fully contained in a rollover or wreck. The seat belts are polyester. We spend a lot of time in research and development in creating a seat that has specific shoulder supports that wrap around the driver and keep him fully contained. We have projects with Aston Martin, McLaren, Porsche, and we have a warehouse operations here in the States. We also have a dealer network that is listed on our website, and they can buy off our website direct. Hi racers, this is Brian with Racetech USA. We want to share some exciting developments about our new release of the RT 4100 series seats. The seats are designed for road racers, rally cars, and 6 to 8 second drag cars. The seats will work extremely well for track day and drift cars as well. The new design is available in 2 sizes, standard or big and tall, with or without head restraint. All seats are manufactured from fiberglass composite with large harness slot guides. The seat cover has been enhanced with spacer material for better comfort during summer racing. The back mount beam comes standard just like in our premium seats. It can be bolted to your car's harness bar. They also use the same standard aluminum side mount brackets that are used on our 009 and 119 series of seats. Just recently, the head restraint seats received FIA approval, which allows us now to ship them with the proper decals. You can contact your local dealer to order. Any further questions, please visit our website or contact me at 704-450-4507. Thanks for taking the time for watching this video.
Hi, my name's David Black from Racetech Seats in New Zealand. We've been designing seats for 20 years now for race cars and have come up with some philosophies that we believe are necessary in a race car to support the driver and to get them home safe. Data collected from around the motorsport world over many years shows that if a driver's well enough supported in a crash, he can survive some big impacts. So the areas of the body that need to be supported are the head, the neck, the shoulder and the torso. If those areas are kept in alignment with each other, then the driver can handle some pretty big G-forces. Racetech has developed a range of seats over those years which incorporates good strong head restraint, square shoulders to support the upper torso. And then on top of that, we fix the seat at the shoulder level to the chassis or the roll cage, hence transferring that load directly to the chassis in an impact. So this is exactly what I'm talking about here. Just one of our standard brackets for back mounting to the roll cage. So obviously with this fixed to the roll cage, there's absolutely no way that the top of the seat can move at all, so therefore the driver obviously gets much better feel of what's happening in the race car. And as you saw in the crash footage, the seat that had the shoulder fixing, the brackets are virtually untouched. The brackets that were on the seat when there was no back fixing at the shoulder level are really deformed. That's what happens with the load going down to the side brackets only. So the 3 points of difference that a Racetech back mounted seat has is, Firstly, that it gives the driver a much better chance in an accident because the seat's so much stronger and better supported to the chassis. The second one, and it's a comment we get from a lot of drivers around the world, is that it gives them better feel of the race car, so hence they can drive faster for longer. And the third one is engineers have been telling us that they actually believe they're getting better structural integrity of the car because the seat is such a strong part of the car and three-way fixed. Our two main ranges of seats that follow this philosophy is our 119 and 129 range of seats. The 129 range of seats meets the latest FIA standard and obviously incorporates these same philosophies of back fixing at the shoulder. Here at Racetech, we want drivers to win races and get home safe.
This particular vehicle was set up with a full containment race seat, specifically designed for drag racing and road racing, and this drag car is required to have 2 seats. This full containment seat has back mounting designed to keep the driver fully contained in a rollover or wreck. The seat belts are polyester. We spent a lot of time in research and development in creating a seat that has specific shoulder supports that wrap around the driver and keep him fully contained. We have projects with Aston Martin, McLaren, Porsche, and we have a warehouse operations here in the States. We also have a dealer network that is listed on our website, and they can buy off our website direct. Hi racers, this is Brian with Racetech USA. We want to share some exciting developments about our new release of the RT 4100 series seats. The seats are designed for road racers, rally cars, and 6 to 8 second drag cars. The seats will work extremely well for track day and drift cars as well. The new design is available in 2 sizes, standard or big and tall, with or without head restraint. All seats are manufactured from fiberglass composite with large harness slot guides. The seat cover has been enhanced with spacer material for better comfort during summer racing. The back mount beam comes standard just like in our premium seats. It can be bolted to your car's harness bar. They also use the same standard aluminum side mount brackets that are used on our 009 and 119 series of seats. Just recently, the head restraint seats received FIA approval, which allows us now to ship them with the proper decals. You can contact your local dealer to order. Any further questions, please visit our website or contact me at 704-450-4507. Thanks for taking the time for watching this video.
Hi, my name's David Black from Racetech Seats in New Zealand. We've been designing seats for 20 years now for race cars and have come up with some philosophies that we believe are necessary in a race car to support the driver and to get him home safe. Data collected from around the motorsport world over many years shows that if a driver's well enough supported in a crash, he can survive some big impacts. So the areas of the body that need to be supported are the head, the neck, the shoulder and the torso. If those areas are kept in alignment with each other, then the driver can handle some pretty big G-forces. Racetech has developed a range of seats over those years which incorporates good strong head restraint, square shoulders to support the upper torso. And then on top of that, we fix the seat at the shoulder level to the chassis or the roll cage, hence transferring that load directly to the chassis in an impact. So this is exactly what I'm talking about here. Just one of our standard brackets for back mounting to the roll cage. So obviously with this fixed to the roll cage, there's absolutely no way that the top of the seat can move at all, so therefore the driver obviously gets much better feel of what's happening in the race car. And as you saw in the crash footage, the seat that had the shoulder fixing, the brackets are virtually untouched. The brackets that were on the seat when there was no back fixing at the shoulder level are really deformed. That's what happens with the load going down to the side.
And welcome back, everybody. We have full glasses. We have had cake. Well, I have anyway. I think Sam's eaten a jumbo bag of crisps or chips for our American viewers. So yes, back to the racing, Pete. We've got George McClay ahead, nearly 8 seconds of Marco Namella. Johnny Brandon, we see he had his little spin before his pit stop, a couple of off tracks afterwards, is currently in third, just 2 seconds behind Marco. We then have Tony Kloosterman, Wayne Sanderson, Rich Warmingham, Greg Carr, Steve LaValle, Ant Woodward, and Lane O'Connor. Just 10 cars still running. So, Pete, we haven't really got any close battles on track at present. But, and I say but, we are probably looking at the third stop starting in about 4 laps' time for those that pit early. And that's when the gaps are either going to close up considerably or lengthen considerably. How do you see the last 25% of this race going?
I think it's dependent upon Tony Kloosterman and who else pitted early? Marco Namela extending the stint for a bit longer. I say that it's a case of, and then there were 10. We've got 10 cars left. George McClay is pulling out a lead on Marco Namela. Johnny Brandon is a victim of his own spin, as we already noted. He tried to go 1 lap longer. It didn't pay off. He did quite a few off tracks after he rejoined. Maybe he was pushing too hard. I'm not sure. But you would suggest that George McClay has got this bagged, with the exception of making any personal mistakes, which is highly unlikely. Those people that did pit early need to run a bit longer so that they even everything out now, unless they think they can suddenly get an undercut, but the undercut doesn't seem to have shown its face, does it?
No, I think with this new tyre model, there's like a 2-lap window of bliss, and then you're in the same boat as everybody else. I agree with what you said, barring any major mistakes. I think George McClay's got this in the bag, because I believe his final stop is only going to be about 20 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the Namella, Brandon, Kloosterman, Sanderson, Warmingham, so second through to 6th, and what those guys need to do in the pit stops and how that's going to shake that order up, because we're looking at 7 or 8 seconds between 2nd and 6th. So and saying that, we've got Marco Namella, we've got Johnny Brandon and Tony Kloosterman all pitting at the same time.
Yeah, I think Johnny's got through his tyres, and that was evident by all the tracks at the beginning of the last pit lane stint, or whatever you want to call that, stint 3, was it?
That's a quick stint for Johnny, isn't it?
That's what I mean. I think, well, who's that blinking in and out? Is that Tony? Yeah, maybe he's having the same trouble I had with the internet. I think Tony's pitting as he would do. I think Marco is as well, because he pitted on lap 29 or something like that. Johnny's the one that's outstanding there. I don't think that's a normal pit window for him. They're all pitting out at in the same order. Is that? Yeah. No. Yeah, Johnny's leapfrogged everyone with a 22.8. So maybe that is a class move on the part of Johnny Brandon. And let's see if he's got the fuel to get him to the end now.
But again, I think Johnny has done his first 2 stops were full tanks, which gives him that short stop on that 3rd stop. Whereas I believe Tony had to take probably nearly a full one.
Saying that, although Johnny's gone round again.
He has the same point again, hasn't he?
So that's the 3rd time that's happened. They're going to have to put a plaque on that corner to his name. Johnny Brandon spun here 3 times. That'll be worth talking about in the podcast. Who's that in pit lane
George
now?
McClay's in the pits.
See, that's earlier than I would have expected for George, but he has been.
It is, but I think they only need, I don't know, I guess at 14, 15 gallons. So it's just running the previous stint until you've got enough space in the tank to fit that in, and then you can pit.
Well, no,
Wayne Sanderson in as well.
I think George's pit stop is a reaction to the fact that the 3 pitted on the same lap. I think it's called him in, as it were, so he doesn't want them to get the advantage of an undercut on
not
better tyres. No?
No, not with the lead that he had.
Well, he had about 10 seconds, didn't he? If not more, because Marco was the next one back from him, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah,
well,
he's away.
Yeah. 27 seconds. No, that's Wayne's. Where's George's? 23 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very brief. That's going to extend his lead significantly.
Can Tony Kloosterman do anything about Johnny Brandon?
I don't know, but Anne Woodward
was a bit wild.
Yeah, he was all over the back of Wayne at one point, and then kind of lost it going into, I think that's turn 3, I'm going to go with. Before this straight to the tiny chicane.
So Rich Warmingham currently leading. Obviously still with a pit stop to come, but with the new rule set, if he leads a lap, he gets a point. If he leads 3 laps, he gets 3 points. So that's all going to help him in his quest for a championship.
Yeah, he's doing really well again, showing his class. Where he finishes at the end of the race is critical for the league itself, but every time he crosses that line there, he clocks up points which will extend his lead or at least contribute to his championship total.
Yeah, Nikolai sent us a message, obviously, before the pit stops. He reckons the leaders are going to get penalties for speeding in the pit lane, and Rich W will win another race. Unfortunately, Nikolai, that didn't happen, but what did happen was Johnny Brandon, after every pit stop he's had, has come out and done the same spin. So I expect some self-flagellation in the Brandon household tonight.
Definitely. Greg Carr's just boxed his car, as has Steve
LaValle.
Yeah.
So that just leaves Rich Warmingham to pit.
And the statistics show that he's not doing himself any favours by staying out, because he'll be losing time lap on lap, won't he?
Yeah, well, his last lap was a 2:03. Whereas most of the laps have been in the 2:01s and 2:02s out of the pits. So yeah, you're right. He is losing time there.
And I can't remember off the top of my head where he was competitive. You know, where he would line out. It was just up in front of Tony at one point.
Yeah,
He
it
was
was
fourth.
that whole bunch there, weren't it? Down to sixth, from second to sixth. Could really come out in any order depending on how long they were in the pit lane.
But the longer he stays out, the shorter his pit stop in theory. So as long as he was under 26 seconds, he would come out in first place ahead of George. If he was to pit right now, he would have to pit this lap, do a 24-second pit stop, and come out in front of George. And he's not doing. He's going again.
I think you're talking bollocks there, Pete, if I'm honest. I think that pit stop time is the stationary time, not into out.
As opposed to, right, okay. So the travel isn't included?
No.
Yeah, I think the travel is included under PLT column in the timing, guys.
Okay. Pit lap time.
So it's pit lane time. You have 66 seconds for George Maclay with a 23.7 in pit. 68 for Marco with 26.4 in the pit.
Yeah, so Clive was right in calling me a knobhead. Because you're going to have another 30 seconds to add on.
Yeah, to me, it looks like George is going to be 30 seconds in the lead.
Yeah. Minimum, I would say.
It's just where Rich comes out. You know, there's still not a great deal of time between Nomella in third and Woodward in seventh. So it's where he slots into that battle there. I'm sort of expecting him maybe to sit between Kloosterman and Sanderson, or maybe Sanderson and Woodward.
But then Kloosterman and Wayne Sanderson have done their fastest laps of the race just now.
Yeah, Tony's just banged in his 2 fastest laps in succession, all 2-minute deads, point something.
Yeah, which says he's trying to get a top maybe 3 out of this if he can claw his way back to where Marco is.
Yeah, I think Tony's only chance of a podium is by beating Brandon.
Yeah.
I think Marco Nomella is going to be safe, which Warmingham is in.
Just boxed. Yep.
But yeah, I think Marco will be safe in second. And the battle is Johnny Brandon and Tony Kloosterman for the last podium place, just depending, obviously, on where Rich Warmingham comes out.
Yeah, absolutely. So this will be an interesting pit exit for Rich. On maths, it looks like he'll come out around about Tony Kloosterman's point.
Just depends on how much fuel he's got to squeeze in it.
Yeah, and he's pitting on lap 47.
So he's out.
13 laps, and he's going to come out.
He's just behind Tony, I think.
Yeah. And will Wayne pass?
He's going to be ahead of Wayne just, but he's going to be on cold tyres.
He is.
So Wayne really needs to get this done in the next couple of laps. Otherwise, it then equals out.
Yes, I would say so.
So we'll watch the gap, Kloosterman to Brandon. It's sitting just over 3 seconds at the moment. We've got about 21 minutes left in this race.
And it looks like Johnny Brandon has reacted to Tony Kloosterman's time. He's just done a 2-minute flat 0.66 versus a 2-minute flat 0.98 from Tony. Oh, Wayne's going him up here. Oh, you don't want to do that, son.
I think.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
I was just going to say that was clever by Rich Warmingham because he went to turn in. Wayne was there, so he backed out of it, but then lost it on the cold tyres.
It was clean racing, absolutely. And I think Rich got that a bit wrong. Is Greg Carr gone off track?
Yeah, Greg Carr's cutting the grass at the moment.
Yeah. A bit of doing the verge. there.
Which takes a bit of pressure off of Rich Warmingham.
It does, series leader, yeah. So, as I understand it, everybody's pitted. This is
Crash ran Woodward.
what? Oh yeah. It's all happening now. Cold tyres are kicking in.
No,
Straight on. No, spin
losing
again.
it. Oh, yeah,
He's
same
done
place.
a Johnny Brandon,
Brandon
hasn't
corner.
he? Brandon Corney. That will be forever known as Brandon Corner now for anybody viewing at this point. So we've got George McClay, 6.7 seconds in the lead at the moment, followed by Marco Nemela, then Johnny Brandon in third, Tony Klusterman in fourth, and given the fact that he was in 11th at one point, that's quite a result. Wayne Sanderson in fifth, Rich Warmingham in sixth, the series leader. Seventh is Greg Carr, eighth is Steve Lavallee, ninth is Ant Woodward, 10th, the last of the running cars, is Old Man Lane O'Connor.
Yeah, Johnny Brandon is slowly stretching away from Tony Klusterman. Just need to keep an eye on the gap between Klusterman and Sanderson now.
I don't believe Wayne will claw Tony in, but I do believe that Rich Warmingham might have the pace to bring Wayne Sanderson in.
Well, as we were saying about tyres, there's that little Goldilocks zone, and he's got 3-lap fresher tyres.
Yeah. But he did spin it at Johnny Brandon corner. Is that right?
Yeah.
Or am I making that up? Yeah.
So Lane O'Connor has entered the pit for his final stop. So that's all the pit stops complete, barring anybody who's getting a bit of fatigue, hits a wall, gets some damage.
We've got a few gaps which are quite sizable now. So Johnny Brandon's got a massive job to do to catch Marco. Marco's got a reasonable job to do to catch George, and it's highly unlikely, even though his last lap was a 2-minute flat 0.9, and George was a 2:01.4. Behind them, Johnny Brandon's turned a lap 1.5 seconds slower than Marco.
Yeah, Tony's took time out of him as well.
A little bit, but that's negligible, isn't it? 0.2 of a second. There's not much there.
Yeah, it was 3.2 last time we looked at it. It's down to 2.4, so he's got 0.8 of a second over the last lap and a half. And just on George, I think if George is sensible, he's just going to manage the gap. He's not going to be balls out of the window going for fastest laps now. He's just going to be watching that gap on his relative to Marco. And probably if it drops below 5 seconds, then he'll speed up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And from Tony's perspective, he'll be able to see Johnny with that kind of gap, won't he? If we went in car, for instance, with Tony Klusterman now, I reckon in the distance is a very tempting Johnny Brandon. There we go.
Yeah,
and he can just see him disappear.
There.
Yeah, that's tempting though, isn't it, for any driver? I can see him. I can see where he's going wrong. I can see where he's going right. I can have this bloke in the next 3 laps. You tell yourself, and then of course you don't.
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah.
Yeah, you can end up pushing too hard, can't you, when you're chasing? But
yes. If you're closer, it's better.
I always find it is easier being the hunter rather than hunted.
Yep.
But
you don't want to spend your life looking in your mirrors, do you? That's how you crash.
Exactly, but again, with a 2.5 second gap. Now, all the people that do this iRacing malarkey will agree with me. This is easier said than done. But sitting in Johnny's shoes, you're watching that gap. Tony's throwing everything at it to get close to you. You just let him wear his tyres out and then pull away from him.
You would do, but I don't think Johnny's necessarily of that mind, is he?
If Johnny if Johnny had a realistic chance of chasing down Marco, then no, Johnny would be going for it. But with 15 minutes left, unless there's a mistake up the front, Johnny is not getting any higher than third. But he can protect third from Tony.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. He's got 2.5 second gap at them. It'll be fascinating to see how that works its way loose. He's an old-time campaigner. He's very experienced. He knows where he can gain time. His Achilles' heel in this race was the very beginning of the race, where lots of things went wrong for him, or he made things go wrong. It'd be interesting to see if he can make up that difference, won't it?
Oh, definitely. And you can. I don't think Tony's really had a spin. He's had a couple of off tracks, but you can see how little half spins affect your race overall. Just looking at the 15-16 second gap between Johnny Brandon and George McClay, those two were right on each other for the first half of this race, and those three little half spins for Johnny have cost him 16 seconds overall.
Yeah, Johnny Brandon corner's not been favourable to him, has it? And I think there was a good pit stop in there for George as well, somewhere along the line, which has helped him extend that time that he's got over Marco at the minute, and particularly over Johnny. Because you're right, they were glued together for quite a long time in that second stint, I think it was.
And I'm sure this isn't happening in Johnny's head. It probably just only happens in my head. But once I've spun at the same corner for 2 or 3 times, I am then extra careful every lap that I then go into it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that's the case with him, because I'm the same. Actually, you would believe that I'm not, given my track record at Bathurst, but I do exactly the same thing. I'm like, oh Christ, I'm heading towards the corner of death right now, and therefore I've got to go around here at 1 mile an hour, bound to die. It is one of those situations, isn't it?
Yeah, and is that playing in Johnny's mind? I don't know. Possibly because I don't think this track helps with the gap intervals. Because Tony's had it down to 2.1 seconds. It's now stretched out to nearly 2.4. But it'd be interesting, is that playing into Johnny's mind? I'm sure he'll tell us it doesn't. Once you've spun, you've forgot about it. But I don't think that's over yet, that third place on the podium.
No, I mean, if Johnny's got form for spinning at Johnny Brandon corner, then it could happen at any lap, couldn't it? I'm the same. The more careful you are on certain corners, the more you overdrive the caution, and therefore you're more inclined to crash, or I find I am.
Yeah, I think the thing in Johnny's favour is, though, each time he's done it has been straight out of the pits on cold tyres. He's not done it on warm tyres.
No, absolutely right. And given the fact that Tony's out of the pits one lap later than Johnny this time round, suggests that Johnny's got the better set of tyres.
But again, that gap has just gone to 1.7.
Yeah. It'd be interesting to see what their lap times are at the end of the lap.
Yeah,
Johnny's last lap was 2:02.1.
I think Johnny's had a bad lap this time.
What, again?
Well, yeah, because that last one, there was 0.2 of a second, but Tony has took, I'm expecting a 0.4, 0.5 difference this lap.
Okay, let's have a look and see what happens when they cross the line. We're not far from it.
Yeah. If you want to have more information, guys, you can click on lap time in the display type on your new fabulous software, and
Yeah.
you will see how Tony is closing on Johnny at the moment.
He certainly is. Yeah, it was a 202.1 for Tony last lap and a 201.9. Sorry, for Johnny last lap, and a 201.9 for Tony as well last lap.
Yeah,
We'll see what
certainly
these are.
going to be more of a gap this time.
I think so. I mean, again, as a race car driver, from the cockpit is where you visualize that difference. And if we were riding on board with Tony, we would see the difference now more clearly than the last time we were driving with Tony, as it were.
There you go, 0.7. So Tony took nearly 7/10 out of Johnny in that lap.
Yeah, that's immense, actually. I think we're on board with Tony now. There we go. Yeah, that's significantly different, isn't it? Johnny's car is much bigger in your line of sight.
Yeah, one thing I do is, for instance, say coming down into this corner, when I see the brake lights go on of the car in front, what am I next to on the track? And then the next lap, am I closer or am I further away?
Yeah,
And obviously these guys being sim racers, they've got their relative screen as well, so they can see the gap to the car in front of them with just a glance down with the eyeballs.
Yeah, totally right. It's not like with the real life drivers, they're waiting for a spotter potentially to tell them what the difference is, or even waiting to the end of the lap to see what the delta time is. Shout out to Lane O'Connor, old man O'Connor, who did his fastest lap in the lap previous of the race at a 201.9 while he was knitting a kilt, apparently.
Yeah, well done, Lane. Still going.
For anybody that is wondering why there's haggis and kilt references made with Lane O'Connor, I'm not going to answer that one.
So 1.3 seconds now, Brandon to Kloosterman. I think this is on.
Do you think? Because he's the second fastest man on the track. The fastest man is the series leader at the moment, which is Rich Warmingham. His last 201.9, which is head and shoulders above everybody else. I mean, he's got a massive gap to...
Another 0.4 there for Kloosterman.
There you go. Here we go. We might be on here. This is a rival across the boundaries of the Racetech feature sprint enduro. It's led to some tasty language at times from some individuals in that exchange.
Yeah, but like we always say, you hear in every race, catching is one thing, passing is another.
Absolutely, and if you're going to be able to pass at any track, with Johnny locking up just then and Tony not doing, this is the track where you're going to have the best opportunities to do it over some of the other tracks. You've got some great places to pass. Turn 1, if you can do the undercut, like stay out wide on the entrance to the corner, be tight on the exit to the corner, you've got a chance there. You've got a chance into turn 2, but that's a block pass and a dive bomb, really. You've got into the tight chicane at the end of the first proper straight. Then you've got into the next one, which I call a dive bomb corner again, the next right-hander. And then you've got at the end of the back straight and into Sunset, there's all sorts that can go on at that point, which is where they're coming towards now. Johnny stepping sideways as he came out of that corner.
Yeah, although this does look like a better lap for Johnny, or a more equal lap to Tony anyway.
Right. And maybe Johnny's reacting to the fact that he can see Tony's headlights bigger in his mirrors, because you do get that effect as a sim racer as well.
Yeah, I'm expecting similar lap times from him this time. Yeah, so 2/10 according to that. So
Nearly
Tony's. Oh, actually, Tony took a hell of a lot of time out of him then.
Yeah, nearly 3/10. That's immense.
I think that was
And he's
all
within a
round
second all of a
Sunset.
sudden. Well, like I said before, Sunset is that corner where if you hit the sweet spot, you can take a huge amount of time out of the car in front. If
Yeah,
you avoid the bumps, you're in a brilliant situation.
to me, it looked like Tony got about half a second in Sunset because there was 1.2 difference going in and 0.7 coming out.
Look at this. Johnny has just locked up into Johnny Brandon corner, and Tony must be, what is he now?
It's less than
0.4 of a
half
second.
a second, yeah.
Yeah, that's huge. And here he might pull some back even.
Yeah, Tony's looking better on the brakes.
Given the fact that he's got tyres that are 1 lap older, does that make a massive difference?
Not when you've got this amount of laps. You know, they're looking at they've done at least 10 laps on these. So yeah, but I think both sets of tyres are going to be as rubbish as each other.
Yeah. Tony's a lot more shallow into that corner, isn't he? Which might mean he doesn't get the drive that he wants into the slipstream of the car in front. And the timing screen would suggest that as well.
So as we like a good conspiracy theory, how about this? This is all psychological on Brandon's part. Catch me, Tony.
Brilliant.
Catch me, catch me, Tony. See ya.
That would be exceptional if that happened. He to make that obvious, he would have to let him get under his rear wing and then disappear off down the road. So your top 10 as it is, the only 10 cars running. In first, George McClay, who has a 10-second and monumental gap over Marco Namela. In third is Johnny Brandon, who is only just ahead by about a second over Tony Klusterman. In fifth is Wayne Sanderson. Sixth is Rich Warmingham. Seventh is Greg Carr, part of Team GC, for anybody watching last season. Eighth is Steve Lavallee, who is in the top 3 of the Enduro League for Racetech. Ninth is Ant Woodward. 10th and last is Lane O'Connor. Still on the lead lap and doing a great job.
So we've got a little over 2 minutes to go. So I think we're going to be looking at a 59 lap race on George's pace. So Tony's got 2 laps to get this done, and the gap has gone out a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, we appear to be focused on Ollie Christian.
Yeah, have we got a technical glitch going on? That's better, Sam.
There we go, we're back. That's all right.
Sam fell asleep on his keyboard.
That's all right.
Dropped cake on one of his keys. See, my conspiracy theory is coming good.
So Tony's back 1.2 seconds now, so he's probably pushed his tyres a bit too far, maybe. He's run a sterling.
Maybe Brandon is in see ya mode.
Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe I'll tempt you into getting closer to me, knowing that I can't get the next position.
So I believe this is the penultimate lap.
All right, okay.
See, saying that though, Tony's closed it up again.
He's having it, isn't he? He's a real racer, isn't he? He's not letting it go.
He never gives up, does he?
Nah. And his last lap was half a second slower. This one's going to be half a second faster. He's just showing what a true racer is. Oh, Tony, what are you doing? You got a bit wide there.
Oh, that is the end. That was the last lap.
Oh, right, okay. Apologies, viewers. We got caught out by that one.
Yeah, I was expecting a white flag, not a checkers flag. So well done, George McClay. Commanding victory over Marco Namella in second as the fireworks go off. Johnny Brandon crosses the line in third, flashing his lights. Tony Kloosterman finishes fourth, and Wayne Sanderson in fifth.
It looks like Rich Warmingham will finish in sixth. I'm not sure whether that maintains his championship lead or not. In seventh is Greg Carr. In eighth will be Steve LaValle, depending on whether he crashes or not. Ninth will be Ant Woodward. And Elaine O'Connor will round out the top 10 and the last of the touring cars.
So, yeah, like I said, well done to George McClay. Another strong showing from Marco Namella. All in all, again, small grid, but I thought that race was fascinating. It didn't really pan out. Well, maybe Johnny spins at Brandon Corner, helped George run away with it in the end. But second through to fifth, sixth, maybe, didn't really pan out till after the last pit stop, Pete.
No, not at all. I mean, I was as confused, not necessarily confused. I was as unsettled by the fact that Rich Warmingham at one point was fourth and has ended up sixth. Tony Kloosterman at one point was 11th and has ended up fourth. Johnny Brandon in his first race out was first at one point and was comfortable in first for a time and has ended up third. George McClay has worked his way to first and then dominated everything. And Marco Namela has shown that he is a fantastic racer. He's got the fastest lap of the race at 2 minute flat .199, and has done a brilliant job of scoring the points that he's done there. I mean, that's significant, isn't it? All those points are significant.
Oh, most definitely. And we'll head over to the interviews, and I'll drag Marco in first, Pete, and you can have a chat with him whilst I sort my buttons out because I'm having some weird things going on Discord.
Not a problem. Hello, Marco. Marco, you got your microphone set? There you go. Hello, Marco.
Hello.
How are you this evening?
Tired.
Yeah, I bet. So, 2 hours of Sebring and position 2 behind George McClay. You were 12 seconds behind at the end of the race. How did you find your race tonight?
I think I had the pace, but I was just making too many mistakes.
And what do you put down? What do you put your mistakes down to? What were the causes of your mistakes?
Maybe I ran out of skill.
Yeah, none of us believe.
Pete knows all about that.
Yeah, Pete does know all about that. So, as I try and find where we are on the replay screen, So you started very competitively. You started in second. You finished in second. Your timings were right at the top of the screen. How describe how your race went?
My goal was just to try to save the tires because the end of the stint you actually make the time matter. And the first stint was good until I made a mistake. Then I had to pit earlier, and then I repeated those mistakes on the stint 2 and 3. And the last stint was actually good until I made a mistake again.
Right. Okay. So, was your mistake initially affecting your tires and the longevity of your tire?
Yeah, when you spin or like lock up really badly, you actually lose a lot of time and performance from the tires. So yeah, taking care of the tires was the key to success in this race.
Okay. And in terms of your endurance league position, how do you feel that this will benefit you? I mean, second place is brilliant, right?
My goal is to just finish all the races I participate. So yeah, anything other than that is only a bonus.
Cool. So, in terms of chasing down George, there was quite a big gap at the end. Is that due to George being a more experienced racer, etc., or is that because your tires were not able to keep up and you couldn't push as far? Because you clearly had the single lap speed over everybody in the race at all, because you had the fastest lap of the race.
Oh, cool. I think I just made mistakes. I just drove badly. George drove a great race, and congrats to George. Yeah, I wouldn't like. I had the single lap pace, but that doesn't secure the victory if you can't finish all your laps.
Yeah, absolutely understandable. Would you like to make any thanks to anybody before you leave us?
Thanks to you guys streaming and hosting and all this league thing, and yeah, my team. Yeah, that's.
Okay, thanks, Marco. Clyde, are we going to move on to the next person?
We certainly are. Shall we get race winner George McLean?
I think we should. I think you should interrogate him.
George, welcome to the booth.
Good evening, gents.
What can I say? That was easy, wasn't it?
Nah, well, I got the win. I wasn't expecting the win for sure, but that definitely wasn't easy. I was lucky that Johnny made his mistakes, and it was quite a close one with Marco as well. Because definitely the first stint, when I got by Marco and I was behind Johnny, I think Marco went for a move and it let Johnny get a gap. I felt as though Johnny just put the foot down then and tried to go for it. And I just tried to stay with him. And I was like, oh no, I don't know if I keep this up for 2 hours. It was pretty hard going. I was taking risks and that. But then obviously in the pit stops, I think I'd used a wee bit less fuel than him.
Yeah, we were saying on the broadcast, Johnny got out to about a 1.5 second lead in that first stint. But by the end of the stint, you'd closed him back down again, so that when you pitted, you was right under his rear wing. Obviously, your pit stop was quicker. You jumped him in the pits. And then, interestingly, Johnny made the same mistake after every pit stop on a corner that we've renamed Brandon Corner. So, I think we was on for a grandstand finish, but Johnny's mistakes didn't help. But you just seemed to, I don't know, maybe hold the tyres a bit better so that you could close him down at the end of that first stint.
I think what it was, I felt as though he was obviously got like a tiny gap because Marco went for the move, and I think he maybe thought to himself, I'll push really hard to get a big gap. and obviously I was just trying to live with him throughout that big gap, and I did see he was looking up here and there. So I think at nearer the end of the stint, although I had got the gap, his tyres probably went off a bit more than mine, and I was able to close the gap.
Yeah, and then you had a bit of contact with Marco. I was saying on the broadcast that when the pit stops pan out, he was going to get a lead anyway. And I was sort of half expecting you to not risk it, let Marco go, and then just jump him in the pit stop. But like I say, you had contact, he got past you, then you fought back and got past him. Worrying times for you, up there at the front with that sort of stuff going on?
That was definitely worrying, because what happened, obviously when I came at the pits, Marco had been in a few laps earlier and his tyres were really fresh and he'd got them up to temperature. So I was coming out the pits with cold tyres, and he was right beside us, and I was trying to defend it on cold tyres, and it just eventually they got by, and I went to go for the move again, and we had a slight bit of contact. As you says, it was really, really risky. I was hoping before I went into the pits, I looked at my relative and saw Johnny was 6 seconds back. I was like, hopefully when Johnny comes out the pits, he'll be next to Marco. But Marco obviously had done a great job, and he got it up for the lead.
Yeah, Pete was saying to Marco in the interview just now, Marco obviously had the fastest lap of the race, so he definitely had the one lap pace. But well done, George. 2 hours, Sebring, it can be difficult. Then we threw in, it's a night race, but all in all, you've won it by 12.2 seconds. So when people look back at the results, they're going to think it was fairly easy for you. So well done on that. And before we let you go, is there anybody you'd like to thank?
Actually, I always forget to mention Racetech. Thanks to Racetech for sponsoring the main series, and obviously thanks to you guys for doing a great job with the broadcast and that as well, and obviously my team, Texans Fitztime Motorsport.
Okay, George, well, thanks for joining us in the booth, and we will see you, hopefully, next week.
Sure will. Cheers, guys.
Catch you later. Okay, Pete, your choice. Tony or Johnny?
Johnny.
Johnny Brandon, welcome to the booth.
Hello, guys. How are you?
We're good. Pete's got a few questions for you, and if he doesn't ask the special question, then I will at the end.
Yeah. I might just leave that one for you. So, Johnny, how are you doing? You okay?
I've just lost all respect for you, Pete.
Yeah.
Man up. Come on.
Never mind. So, you've finished third. You were second. You were first at one point. In the first stint, you stretched out quite a considerable lead in that stint, but then the guy behind you closed in on you. Is that because you used up your tyres too quickly at the start?
Nah, I just backed off to save fuel, to get the extra lap. Because I didn't have any slipstream. I was just cutting it tight on the fuel, so I just started lifting and coasting, trying to save the fuel, and just about made it. And then second stint, George went. Obviously being behind, he probably used a little bit less fuel, slightly quicker stop, got in front of me. I was quite happy to sit behind him, very easy lifting off. I saved an extra whole lap of fuel behind him, and then proceeded to drop the car. No idea why. Complete moment of madness.
Was this on what we've now recalled Johnny Brandon Corner?
Probably, yeah, because then I did it again in the third stint, even better, and started doing donuts and waving to Marco Namella as he drove past. Then tried to follow him and did it again. And did another donut.
Is that your question?
Completely killed my tyres.
No, I want to talk conspiracy.
That was it.
Okay.
Seriously. Sexy.
It was stylish spinning, if I have to say so. It was better than I could have achieved anyway.
Well, I was just complimenting myself on how I managed to correct the car so nicely, and just as I dropped it again as I pulled away.
So, The question that Clyde once answered is: in the last stint, you had quite a gap over Tony, and the gap reduced quite significantly over a number of laps, and then you decided, you know what? No, I'm gonna stretch this gap again. Was that conscious or not conscious?
I kind of conscious.
Yes, I was right.
You were, yeah. Okay.
My car was
Explain
struggling.
that.
My car
Your
was
car was
struggling. When you spin as much as I did in that last stint,
Yeah,
I was saying
and
to
on the
Tony
same
that my
corner.
rear
I'll just point that.
my rear tyre wear was in the 60s. I've never seen anything below 87.
Right.
And I was like 68 or 67. Can't remember now. It was in the 60s. The car was mullered at no pace. So I'd given up with about 15 minutes to go. I was just like, oh, it's a waste of time. Well, pretty much after the spin, I'd given up, and I realised my car was about a second slower than it needed to be. So I was just driving round, and then I realised it was Tony that was coming, which gave me a little bit of incentive to keep going. And he wasn't getting past, put it that way. Luckily, he overdrove it himself, I think. But yeah. I think he did well to come back from where he was, didn't
he? He really did, because we haven't spoken to him yet, but he seemed on the first, like, maybe 2-3 laps to drop way back in the field, and made a lot of it back in the first pit stop, to be honest.
He probably had computer issues.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I've had plenty, to be honest. Clyde, you got any questions for Johnny?
No. Johnny's just nearly confirmed our conspiracy theory.
Absolutely.
So,
I wasn't doing it deliberately to wind Tony up.
Well, that's what we was alluding, or I was alluding to in the broadcast, that
he was laying
it's
it on
Tony behind you. Let Tony catch you up and then drive away from him, demoralise him, and jobs are good. But
thoughts to that effect did cross my mind when it actually happened. But it wasn't the deliberate ploy. I was actually in quite a bit of trouble. So yeah.
Okay, Tony. So Johnny Kloosterman. Anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Actually, you guys, really fun race. Thanks for putting it all on. Yeah, XVR teammates, VRA, and Matt was really good to us, and we might have some exciting news coming at XVR in the near future.
Give us a hint.
No. Just a new partner, new sponsor. So potentially.
Any money in it for us?
Could be good. No.
Oh shit.
Well, there might be. We'll see. Anyway.
When Pete said that, he meant me and Pete, not
he did.
I was thinking more the Clyde side of it than the Pete side.
Really? I'm not interested. Unless it involves naked, I'm not interested.
I'll leave that to Clyde.
Right. So, anything else to add, Johnny, before we let you go?
Nah, that's it. Thanks, guys. Great race.
Okay, we will.
Thanks, Johnny.
Next week at your favourite track.
Where are we next? Bathurst.
Bathurst. Get in.
Where we shall watch Nicole Foggy wipe the floor with all of us.
Yes.
I've actually can't make it because I've got to go out that day. Oh,
no.
That's not going to work, is it?
That ain't happening.
No.
There's no excuses.
Get your excuses in early, Johnny.
Right. Thanks for joining us, Johnny. We'll catch you next week.
Thanks, guys. Good night.
Cheers, Johnny.
Tony Kloosterman, welcome to the booth.
How you doing, Clyde?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Let's start with the start of the race, shall we? You had a few off tracks in the first couple of laps. Cold tyres, computer problems.
Yeah, cold tires and not driving very well, actually. So I put myself way behind. As you can see, I think I was down in 12th or 13th or something after 2 laps. So that really made it difficult.
Yeah, and then as recovery drives go, to finish 4th with a sniff at third, which we'll talk about in a little while. You know, it's not a podium, but you must be pleased with fourth. You know, after, like you say, the mistakes from you at the start.
Yeah, that really hurt me, and I had to pit early. The people that were ahead of me at the time were a little bit slower, and I didn't want to take any chances on passes. So I thought, well, I'll just pit 2 laps earlier than what I had planned on, and hope to make up some ground there, which it appeared I did. And that worked out not too bad, but in the end, that first stint really hurt.
Yeah, and then fast forward to the end. You've probably had a chat with Johnny in the interview room. You know, we've renamed one of the corners Johnny Brandon Corner because he seemed to spin out there most laps out of the pits, which obviously threw him back into your clutches. Now we noticed the battle he was about 2.5 seconds behind Johnny. We came up with a little bit of a conspiracy theory that Johnny was going to let you catch up and then drive away from you. Which, if you look at the times, that is what happened. But you know, you was really pushing it, and you was taking time out of Johnny hand over fist. But then ultimately, he managed to get away again. Had you just used your tyres up totally, or was Johnny playing mind games?
No, I was catching up to him right up to the last lap. We were down to 0.7 of a second, and just going on to the last straight there, I went off track and got in the grass, and that's what the difference was at the end. But Johnny was locking up his brakes quite a bit, so I knew he was using up his tires, and I thought I had something for him near the end, but it wasn't going to happen.
Okay. So, overall, a good recovery drive from you. Next week, we turn our attention back to the main series and Bathurst. It's a track that I think all of us have done thousands and thousands of laps on, and one that a certain Nicole Foggy is just, I don't know, seems to be in a different class to everybody else. Have you got anything for Nicole at Bathurst?
I don't know. Bathurst track I like. I'm usually pretty comfortable there. Haven't done any practice yet, so gonna have to get at some work this week and get some laps in and see what we come up with. It's a long race, 90 minutes. Can't have any mistakes because the walls there, they do a lot of damage to the
They
car.
bite,
They do.
don't they, Pete?
Maybe.
Okay, Tony. So before we let you go, I'm going to say congratulations on your recovery drive. Anybody you'd like to thank?
Never Quit Racing, some ability. You guys for doing the broadcast, Esia Racing for the broadcast, and Racetech. So we'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, catch you later, Tony. Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
Okay, Pete. So that is all the interviews done for tonight. So, quick race recap from yourself.
An upside down race, in my opinion. You got George McClay winning. He didn't lead us off the line. Marco Namela, who was clearly the fastest guy on an individual lap. Johnny Brandon, who was clawing everybody back at one point and then made one corner his own for all the wrong reasons. Tony Klusterman, who was reeling in Johnny Brandon for a while, but then couldn't. We only finished with 10 drivers still turning. Unfortunately, we lost. Who did we lose? We lost Richard Alsop, Ollie Christian Onneberg, Andrew Hoffman. Jamie Wilson didn't start, and Nikolai Bogotyrev didn't start either. Just to mention them. It's been a fantastic race. I always love Sebring. It's got some fantastic corners, some really good racing, and we will see everybody at Bathurst in the next one.
Indeed. I've not really got anything to add from a race point of view. So I thought it was a good race. I'd like to thank Pete for joining me in the booth, as usual. Sam for all the work that he does on the broadcast, for keeping me and Pete straight. And then on a serious note, big thanks to Racetech, our sponsors. I know, like a lot of businesses around the world at the moment, their shops are closed, but you can still mail order, I believe. To everybody who's in lockdown, keep at home, keep everybody safe. To those of you out there like me that still need to go to work every day, do what you can, keep yourselves safe. It's a weird time at the moment, but one way or another, we will all get through it. And in the meantime, whilst you're stuck at home, get yourself some practice in for Bathurst. If you can't race at Bathurst, there's not really much of an excuse, but get yourself watching the broadcast. And on that note, I think we will close. So thanks to everybody that raced. Thanks to everybody that watched. Thanks to everybody that hasn't watched us yet, but is now going to watch us. And we will be back next week with the main series from Bathurst, as we said. And then our little group of fine broadcasters will be back from Bathurst as well on the 25th of April for the next round of the Endurance Championship. So everybody keep safe. Good night from me. Good night from Sam. Good night from Pete.
Good night.
And catch you later.